I'd like to call to order this committee the whole meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores and extend a welcome to everyone in the chambers this evening. The first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility to do so. You can do so now or when it arises on the agenda. If there's nothing, then we have nothing under additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. This evening we have three delegations, and the first delegation is Mr. Mann, John Mann. He's here about the Harbor Light Restaurant lease. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I have two items I want to talk about tonight. One, Save Harbor Light, and on the back, say no to voters-only washrooms. I'd like initially for this council to pass a bylaw to designate the Harbor Light property to be of cultural heritage value or interest. I had assumed that the Harbor Light restaurant had been designated a heritage structure already. If it has not been so designated, I hereby make application to council to designate Harbor Light restaurant as a heritage property. The Harbor Light is an iconic structure that is the definition of cultural heritage at Port Elgin Beach, the best beach in the world. Under the Ontario Heritage Act, municipalities can pass bylaws to designate properties of cultural heritage value or interest. Linda White was kind enough to send me some communication from the federal ministry, which indicates that maybe the feds own the property. I don't know, but somehow this council and the town has been able to have access to making the lease arrangements. So it would seem to me that at some point, whoever owns it can make way for this just spectacular place to be designated as a heritage property. So hopefully that can be done in the future. This request for heritage designation is highlighted and supported in the Waterfront Master Plan that described the Harbor Light to be, quote, of an older and more heritage design, end quote. The Harbor Light restaurant at Port Elgin Harbor is one of the legendary beach restaurants in the world and has the best ice cream and cheeseburgers and chocolate milkshakes anywhere. The Harbor Light is in a magnificent heritage building that has no equal at any other beach in the world, coupled with a view that is beyond compare, making it, in my view, the best restaurant anywhere. The Saugeen Shores Council is currently divided on whether or not the owners of the Harbor Light should be required to construct a washroom for their customers. But there are public washrooms right next door to the Harbor Light. Therefore, there is absolutely no need to add washrooms inside the Harbor Light Heritage Building. Furthermore, the town inexplicably supports, quote, a boaters-only washroom is the goal, end quote. Quote, boaters, end quote, is a class of people who rent space for their boat to be parked at the harbor. The question is, how and why did the town of Saugeen Shores decide that the public washroom should be limited to the exclusive use of boaters only, while everyone else should be excluded? The town has advised me that the reason is there are not enough amenities at our magnificent harbor for boaters. Apparently, if our public washrooms can only be used by boaters, the town concern for boaters' amenities will be realized. Do all the other people who are not boaters, who visit and enjoy our best beach in the world, not deserve the same amenities? After all, the town invites everyone to come and visit and enjoy our famous beach and harbor, and as a result, the town receives the huge benefits resulting from a strong tourism industry where people from all over come and rent cottages, dine in our restaurants, and shop in our retail stores. In addition, the people that also deserve amenities are the people that actually live in Saugeen Shores, who pay for and maintain the magnificent beach and harbor, whether or not they are boaters. To limit the public washrooms to the exclusive use of boaters, or limit them to any other group for that matter, for example race, is unlawful and just plain wrong. The town also advised me that there have been complaints that some people have used the sinks of the public washrooms to wash their feet. It is unknown if the people washing their feet in the sink were boaters or just plain people. How limiting the public washrooms to boaters as a solution is unknown. The bottom line is that it is a public washroom at the best beach in the world for everyone to use and can never be limited to boaters only or any other designated group. Taxpayers pay for it and maintain it for the benefit of everyone. It would be unlawful to exclude anyone. Joan and Tom Johnston are the delightful, spectacular, legendary owners of Harbor Light, meticulously maintaining the heritage structure for over 25 years and using their own beef raised at their farm in their menu, and always demanding the highest quality of items on the menu combined with spectacular service. They are very attentive owners, in constant attendance, overseeing the entire operation with a spectacular, friendly staff. I strongly oppose any change whatsoever to the Harbor Light. I further strongly oppose any boaters-only goal for the public washrooms that must be open for the benefit of everyone visiting the best beach in the world. And what about the non-boaters who are not customers of the Harbor Light? The town's goal of a boaters-only washroom will force the Harbor Light restaurant to provide a public washroom for everyone else that will be prohibited from using the public washrooms right next door. How was this ever raised by council? More importantly, why is council even considering the boaters-only goal issue that is clearly discriminatory? The Harbor Light has provided for decades of wonderful memories for everyone. Let the memories continue without unwarranted interference. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Questions, comments? I guess just one clarification, John, and in your statement, and I don't want to pick it, but the town has not decided to close those bathrooms to the public. And nor has this council even discussed it. So I mean, you're a little in error there. We have not said we are going to close those washrooms and make them boaters only. That discussion has not even taken place. No. In any case, I appreciate your delegation, John, and Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, John, for coming out and expressing your impassioned feelings. And I agree with just about everything you had to say, and I'm just speaking in support of that. And as far as the washrooms go, I agree that we have not seen any definitive plans to close those washrooms, but I have heard it said that there is a goal to have at some point in time a boaters-only washroom facility. Whether that's a new build or reconfiguration of the current facilities, I'm not sure. But as far as the council goes, we have not seen that. I agree. And as far as the cultural heritage designation for the building, that's an interesting concept. And I believe that the process for doing that would be to go through the Municipal Heritage Committee and have them weigh the building off against the criteria that is set out by the provincial government. And if that is a possibility, then I would support that also.
Great, thank you.
Vice Deputy Mayor Hubert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, John. I really like the T-shirt, by the way.
You can get on Shopper's channel.
I just want to make two comments, and we're not here to debate the boaters-only bathroom situation, but I think as a lawyer, you would probably agree with me that when you sign an agreement or a lease or negotiate whatever, that there's two parties involved with that, and you make an agreement and sign it expecting to actually fulfill what the lease says, right?
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah. So part of this situation relates to a previous lease and now a continuation of the lease. So I would just encourage you to take a look back at the previous lease too, and just kind of put them together. I did also want to just mention, and this is just for the next time when we actually do have a bigger conversation. The harbor is run by the town as a business operation. So the harbor has its own budget, and quite frankly, it exists really to generate revenue for the town. So there is an expectation, and in fact it's been a reality, that over the years the harbor is inputs money into the municipal budget, which then does have the impact of being a good thing for the town in terms of, relating to the tax levy that people see on the bills that they receive. So having said that, I hope we can all, when we get to the discussion, agree that if the town is going to run an operation as a business, there should be an expectation that, we run that business to the best of our ability to realize the goals that we would establish for the business. So if, let's say, we determine that the harbor operation is to generate $100,000 worth of revenue for the town, then, the harbor budget and the way that the harbor is managed will support that kind of a business model. And the town runs the harbor and the trailer camps as business operations. So they realize revenue for the town, which does have an impact on the tax levy. So when the discussion comes up, I don't think that there would be a discussion about boater-only amenities outside of the bigger discussion of the harbor as a business operation. And I don't think that they will happen without consideration for the greater population needs at the waterfront. So I look forward to the discussion, whether it's this year, next year, 2 years down the road. But certainly the harbor has a business enterprise. We have a responsibility, I think, to make sure that it stays profitable, because otherwise taxpayers will be paying for the harbor, whereas in the past it was always the harbor contributed revenue. So the harbor is a big question, and so I look forward to that discussion when it comes up. But I'll just leave you with those two thoughts. So
in addition, there's the train. And the train and Harbor Light Restaurant, in my view, are the best in the world.
We're not talking about the train. I just wanted to just put out there that the harbor is a business operation. So when the discussion comes up, I think we all can respect that, a business has a need for profits and has expenses, and that's how the town runs that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you for your presentation, John. Interesting to note about Save Harbor Light. I haven't heard any discussion around this table, or in fact, in the last 15 years, where anyone has ever talked about losing Harbor Light Restaurant. And matter of fact, I was involved with three lease agreement renewals for 5 years at a time, renewing the lease agreement for the Harbor Light. And I think there's genuine support for the great job the Johnsons do with running a restaurant down the Port Elgin Harbor. So I'm not sure where the Save Harbor Light comes from, but there's been no discussion I've ever heard about not allowing Harbor Light to open up. I totally support the great work they do. I think there was a little misinformation presented. I'm going to speak to it later on the agenda 2 weeks ago about the resolution that was the past. But talking about the boaters only, I think we need to give the boaters a bit of a fair shake too. Though I think sometimes they get treated, in my view, anyways, a little bit unfairly. They contribute $350,000 towards their operations at the Port Elgin Harbor. $350,000 towards harbor operations, and I've talked to numerous people in the last 2 weeks about harbor operations and boaters only washrooms, and I just think sometimes they do pay their fair share, and they do contribute towards harbor operations. So I think it's unfortunate it comes down to boaters versus Harbor Light, and I don't think that's the way it should be. And I think there's definitely room for both. The harbor operations is a good operation. Harbor Light Restaurant is a terrific operation, but we're trying to marry the two together, and I'm not sure that's fair. So, but anyways, John, I just want to thank you for your presentation, and no one around this table has ever said we're losing Harbor Light Restaurant. So
say Mike, I just want to say Jeff Myatt did the greatest job for Saugeen Golf Club. We'll miss him.
That's for
well in his new endeavor.
That's for another deputation, John. That's for another time and another deputation, and you're welcome to bring that here if you want. Thanks very much for your comments, John.
Thanks a lot.
The next delegation is John Van Bassler, and he's here about the annual Great Run, the Huron Shores Run. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mayor Mike, and Thank you for letting me come this evening, members of council, staff, everyone. It's another wonderful day in Bruce, and glad to present to you another wonderful event we're going to run this year. Matter of fact, it's going to be 28 years now we're going to be running this event, and raised over $300,000, and we hope that we even make that closer to $400,000 when we get this event finished with, and that's within our town. There's no Brinks truck taking this money out of town. It stays right here in town. And what a great facility to have in town is our hospital. I think that's the only way we grow, and I am always proud to be supporting it within the great town of Saugeen Shores. So we are registering again this year. We're about 400, same level as we did last year. So it's great news that we can still maintain that type of involvement and interest. I'm not crazy about growing it as much because since we started in 2011 with 76 runners, and now we're up to 800. And if we try to get any bigger, I'm afraid we'd have to do a different type of arrangement. So I'm not sure what we want to do, but we'll discuss that with our group. Our mission as a group is to have fun and to raise money for the hospital. So we want to stick to that mission. And our main idea, so we have a race to help us have that fun. But I want to highlight that our biggest fun is with the walkers and the people that go out door to door and raise funds and just go out and enjoy themselves. Get their 10,000 steps, right? Everybody's into the 10,000 steps. And we want you to come out with your grandkids, with your grandparents, parents, everyone. Just come out and have a good time. And we really do appreciate the town, like I said to Jane earlier. We have a symbiotic relationship with you now with the health and wellness. We really do appreciate your involvement as a town. We could not be this big without the town. And so we work together, and we really enjoy this relationship and how it's grown together. I mean, last year at 12 o'clock in the afternoon at the Coliseum, the place was packed, and it was great to see that type of enjoyment amongst people. And it's about goodness and wellness, which I think is great. And along with that, we have the County of Bruce as a partnership, and they come in with us and help us out. And this county as a whole is amazing. I mean, when it's ranked by TripAdvisor as the third greatest place in Canada to have a beneficial and an economical vacation, you got to be pretty proud of that. And I think that's all part of it. And we love our relationship with the County of Bruce. And lastly but not least, all our sponsors. We have over 40 sponsors that cover the cost of our run, and which is a huge benefit, and we really encourage people to look at the posters, look at who those sponsors, and go out and support those sponsors because they are amazing. And the workers I have, I mean, they're a small group, but we have 80 volunteers, great people. So it's a great event, and I really appreciate your help, and Len with the Works Department, everybody within town totally support us. Without them, we could not run this race the way it is. So I just wanted to come and tell you that, how wonderful it is to have this relationship. We all know how important our hospital is. I mean, I don't have to say how we had the sod turning. I mean, a $10 million investment by the province and a $2 million investment by us. We all know that the building is part of the investment from the province, but at the same time, it's the people of Saugeen Shores that have to fund the material that goes inside that building. And that's what's great, that we have such a high quality of equipment, and which helps with getting people to this community in the way of healthcare workers, which are the greatest. So I think it's just fabulous that we can put this together. And with the new facility, we will have all the money raised this year within the month for that $2 million plus. So that's quite an accomplishment for a town our size. And it makes you feel good. And volunteerism, that's what keeps the town together. And that's why we work together. That's why I do this, because volunteerism is what makes a community. And it's great to go downtown and see everybody helping out each other. So I thank you, and I would like to see council and everyone come to the closing ceremonies, opening ceremonies. I also would like to challenge the town and council. If you each gave me $50, you could throw in $500 from the town, and I think that would be awesome, because it would be, I mean, you don't even have to run to do that. Just give me the $50 and, I'll put the name in there for the town council and town staff. It'd be awesome to get everybody involved because we're getting teams involved, everyone, challenges between offices, that type of thing. It's becoming a real gathering and a fun place. So and what I like about it is it's healthy. I would really like to see a weekend where we just left our cars at home and we did nothing but walk, bike, and run all weekend and do wherever we want to go. We got some great, fabulous trails all around this place. We could easily do it. But I need more people, and I don't know I have the desire to do that anymore. But anyways. So please register. We've definitely gone electronic. We are getting away from the paper, www.rotary.net. Please sign up and come out. And also, Larry, in retirement, I got some great work for you because, you won't be bored. I can find things for you to do. Congratulations. Anyways, that's our race for this year. I'm looking forward to it again. We've ordered good weather, and we had great weather last year. And the Walker House is, again, we're having lunch and everything like that again. Same format, basically, and we're the same type of people participating. So we've actually done some surveys and found out that there's like 1,000 people besides the 800 participants that come to town, and which was kind of interesting to see that there's twice as many people in town. And I forget the numbers, but there was hundreds of people that actually stay overnight. Not just in hotels, like not just with friends and family, but a lot of other areas they stay overnight. So it's actually a community event. So we're letting other people in town know that, in a way, BIAs, businesses, everyone. So it'd be nice to make it a community event, it grow, but they can add on to the race. We'll help them out with our race. So is there any questions?
Thanks very much, John. Questions for John? Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. John, congratulations
Thank
on all the work you're doing and reaching the goal for the hospital. You referred to it twice as a race. I wasn't aware this was a race so much as a run.
Yes, I shouldn't say that. See, that's where you sort of get into this mode, like it's the half marathon made a huge difference, and it's a sanctioned race within Ontario. So that's why a lot of people come. But it is a run, and it is a fun run. Thank you for bringing that forward. It is a fun run. So we don't expect you to make, the people that go out and have to, get world-class times. So sorry, it is definitely a walk, run, bike for fun.
Because if it was a race, I'd have to pick up my workout schedule.
Yeah. Yes. You'd have to pick up the pace a bit. I always pace you with my car if you like.
Thanks. Do you have enough volunteers, John?
We always commit. If somebody would like to volunteer, I can always use more. So please give me a call.
Okay, or just show up at the Walker House, say at 8.
It'd be better if you could give me a call ahead of time because I definitely we would like. We found it a lot easier to organize.
Sure.
It's a quick race, so if you give me a call, 832-5800. And we'll put you into an area. And actually, the more people we have, because one of the things that comes out over and over again, people come to this race because they love the volunteers. They run. They love the volunteers, and I keep hearing it over and over again. It's fun because it's well run, and we have a lot of volunteers helping out. So
it's something that really, I think, when you went to the half marathon, really evolved into something that it changed the whole kind of the whole format of the race, and really brought a bunch of people here to have a lot of fun. And what it did, it really showed off our lakeshore by all means by running along our lakeshore and back to the Walker House. And then in the end, you're right, we did have the sod turning for the hospital last Thursday. This is one of the things that helped make that happen. So thanks very much for everything you do, John.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure. I mean, I love Saugeen Shores, and we all do. And it's a great community, one of the greatest communities in Ontario, right? Probably the best. So.
I say that just about every time I speak somewhere, that you're in the best community in southwestern Ontario.
That's right.
Most people agree with me too, but not everybody. When I get outside of Saugeen Shores, there's different views.
I'm actually in Toronto every week. They actually know where we are now, too.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks very much, John.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and I hope we see you there. And if you do like to volunteer, please come out and give me a hand for our race.
Okay.
Fun race.
Best of luck. Thanks, John. The next deputation then is Mr. Dan Fisher. He's here about grading on the main beach in Port Elgin. Welcome, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did just want to confirm everyone on council did get my letter. I know it came in kind of the last morning, and I just wanted to be sure. I don't have to read it all here. I did want to clarify who I am representing, because it seems like it's more of a, it could be more of a communication confusion situation. When it says Main Beach, part of why I'm here is there seems to be some discrepancy over what is the main beach. And there has been some confusion the past few years on what gets dragged, what gets graded, and what doesn't. And the way I understand it, that's why the maintenance plan was drawn up this year. The trouble with the maintenance plan is there has been some confusion as to what is the main beach and what isn't. So I do want to state that I am here to discuss that from the cement pad at the end of the Izzard extension for about 100 meters further south is the piece of the main beach that is a public beach, that is not a private beach, that sometimes gets left out of the equation. On that beach, there's about 8 cottages on that piece of beach. And I have received, you don't need me to hear me go through all the addresses and all the names, but all the cottage owners in that stretch, I'm speaking on all of our behalf at this point. I've discussed it with all of them. Some of them are here, some of them aren't, but I do speak on behalf of all of them. And that's when I did read something in the where was it? It was about the key shareholders being, it was in the minutes, I believe, from the meeting of February 8th. It was forwarded to me by email, where the key stakeholders in this situation were all spoken to before this plan went into final print. But if none of these 8 people who actually own the property that front on that beach were consulted, then I'm not exactly sure who all the key stakeholders are. But regardless, moving forward, I did get an email from Linda White telling me when I was asking about this, and it says the area in front of your cottage is referred to as Area 3, Sands of Shipley, in the attached plan, which receives limited or basically no maintenance. But when Mr. Kevin Bomer had, and I'm sorry, Jane, it's Jagalewski? Is that the pronunciation? Okay. Kevin Bomer got a reply when he emailed with Jane about it, and it said, Kevin, there is no change of service within this vicinity from previous year's practices. Staff will grade the beach with consultation from the MNR to the portion just south of the Izzard Street vicinity. I can appreciate that the maintenance plan doesn't depict the exact location of grading, where it starts and where it stops. I hope this answers your question. So what's happened the past few years, for many years, I believe it's Thursday mornings before the 4 long weekends is when that beach is graded. And it's before the May 24th, July 1st, Civic Holiday, and Labor Day. And it is enough to keep the beach in decent condition. When the councilwoman here spoke about the trailer park being a major business and how important the revenues are, that's where the path from the big trailer park comes down. The people on that beach, 99% of the time, aren't the 8 families that live there. Of course, we use the beach, but that beach is packed. July and August, that beach is packed. And it is the very start of the piece here discussing the main beach says that the Port Elgin Main Beach is considered to be the busiest of all beaches in Saugeen Shores. It is a major tourism attraction. What happens when that beach doesn't get graded is not the grass that we have allowed to grow in the roped off areas that does save the sand erosion. We get that crabgrass that grows, that awful grass that does nothing but muck things up. And when that beach was always graded, it's enough to do it once a month to keep that grass from coming. And where it says here that the beach has always been made, dragged for aesthetic purposes and to fill holes in the sand left by children. It says on page 19, the town has traditionally graded this beach mechanically for the purposes of aesthetics. That's not totally true. What happens is when that grass is allowed to sit, as it was last year through May and June, you get still water that sits in there and you get bugs. And as soon as the bugs come, you get the Canada geese. Now, my family Has owned the cottage since the 50s. I'm not quite that old, but I have been coming up here for 49 years of my 49-year-old life. And I had never seen a Canada goose on that beach in front of our property until about 3 years ago. And anyone who plays golf knows what those Canada geese do, and anyone who's been around that beach when it hasn't been graded the past few years know what Canada geese do. They come after the bugs that are attracted by the grass, and they make a huge mess. And throughout June last year, that beach wasn't good for tourism. It wasn't good for anything. That's when it really gets to be a mess, because the geese leave their dung all over the place, and it really messes it up. So what the families in that stretch are speaking of is what has happened is sometimes on that Thursday morning when the grader's coming, I've been here and you'll wait to see if it's going to do that stretch. And it had always been done. And I know when the piping plovers came that the ministry takes over and the beach couldn't be maintained, and that's totally out of our hands and your hands. And that's the first time I remember the beach getting really messy. But then afterwards, when the grader would come, sometimes the employee didn't know whether he was supposed to go past the cement pad, whether it's 100 meters of beach, and it is public beach, as I've said. And then we would say, well, can you do that extra piece? And they usually would. And sometimes they'd say, well, we don't know if we're supposed to. And that's why I was informed this year, as much as anything, for the sake of the poor guy driving the grader, he has to know what he's supposed to grade and what he isn't. According to the email from Ms. Chegalewski, I believe that extra 100 meters of beach is still considered by you all as public beach, as it is. You can't really go past that point anyway, because the ground raises up and there's a big patch of grass that the grader can't even get past there. But when the grader comes to the cement pad, it actually has to go past the cement pad to turn around. We're talking about 100 meters of beach, and rather than, we just want to get it clear. Is that 100 meters of beach past the cement pad part of the maintenance plan, as we've been told in that email to Mr. Kevin Bomer, or is that not part of the plan? Because again, I believe the Thursday morning before the long weekend, which is only less than 2 weeks away, some poor soul's going to come to drag that beach, and he just needs to be clear, and we need to be clear whether our part of the beach is being dragged, and I don't see any reason. We're not asking for anything new, anything expensive, anything extra. We just want to have it clear if that 100 meters.
I think we can get that question answered, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Jane, but that part of you're right. Part of the issues is we've had lots of input and questions about it, and the council directed staff to come up with a beach maintenance plan. So I think Jane can probably answer that question for you.
Okay.
Right. I can't make comment about previous years. I really don't know about that situation, but I can tell you, and I can reiterate in the email that I sent out, is that we will continue to do that 100 meters to the same level of service that we do the existing beach on the main beach.
Okay. Now, and I appreciate that, and I thank you, and I'm glad it's clear. As long as, does that have to be changed in the plan then? Can a council member make a motion to have that officially changed?
Well, I don't think the plan needs to be changed. I think you're probably addressing it through that plan. It's maybe just the way you're trying to interpret the plan.
Okay,
but,
no, there is one.
Maybe let Jane answer, and she can clarify it for us, Dan.
Okay, just before she answers.
Sorry. We meet regularly, staff with Public Works and Community Services, to review this area on a regular basis. We've met recently as last week, and even had a conversation with M&R on Friday to determine these areas and where we can maintain. I don't believe there's any confusion on our part as far as communications, and moving forward certainly with this year. We're confident in continuing the level of service to that area that we have historically in the past graded down to.
Just for what Mr. Fisher's asking, so we will be grading down to that 100 meters that he's questioned?
Correct.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Great.
Thanks very much, Mr. Fisher. Thanks very much. So the next item on the agenda then is the general government staff report, and it has to do with the declaration of surplus lands on Lane, surplus lands Lane on Plan 368, and our clerk Linda White will present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. James and Adria, Harvey own 171 Saugeen Beach Road, and Adria Harvey owns a landlocked waterfront parcel of land which extends out to a point towards the water's edge. The Harveys' two parcels of land are dissected by an unopened lane owned by the town. The Harveys would like to acquire the lane for the purpose of merging their properties and redeveloping their land into 3 separate residential lots. Upon undertaking a site inspection, staff confirmed that the lane is heavily treed and is not currently being used by the public. In fact, the lane in its current state visually appears to be part of the Harveys' property. Staff noted that although the lane is not used by the public has created their own natural walking path around the point across the Harveys' property. In deciding whether the lane is surplus to the municipality's needs, the municipality must consider the public's needs to access the public beach. Providing public access around the point is important as it provides a natural access to the sandy beach area. In response to staff's concerns, the Harveys have expressed their willingness to transfer the land on which the public's walking path is located. In exchange for receiving the lane, it is proposed that no money will be exchanged for the transfers of land. As part of the agreement for the exchange of land and future severance, the Harveys will also be required to satisfy the town's condition regarding the location of their frame shed and boathouse on the town shore road allowance. I won't go through the details. The financial impact to this report is that all costs associated with the aforementioned processes are at the expense of the applicant.
Thank you, Linda. And the recommendation is that the lane located adjacent to Lot 5 on Plan 368, as more particularly described on Plan BA-2673, be declared surplus to the municipality's needs. The staff be directed to initiate the process to stop up, close, and transfer the subject lane. That council agrees in principle to acquiring the lands on which the existing trail is located. Questions or comments? Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very innovative solution to a problem, something that in my short time here I haven't seen this trade-off, tit-for-tat kind of a thing, and I congratulate whoever negotiated this, presumably between the Harveys and the staff. My question is, has this been through the Committee of Adjustment or the Planning Committee? Is there a I thought normally we would have seen a recommendation from them as to whether to accept or not accept, or especially when there's encroachments involved? No?
The encroachments do not involve the Planning Advisory Committee. The severance itself and the zoning of the property, those applications have been filed with the County of Bruce. They're held in abeyance until the Harveys actually own the property which they're applying for the severance on.
This is the first step in the process that you are going to see unfold with the Planning Advisory Committee.
So it'll get to their committee after.
Yeah, because I think they need some certainty that they're going to get this land before they can make those severances.
For severance.
Severances, yes.
Right. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Councillor Minot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parcel 2, Parcel 3 is what I'm looking at, and there's another area between those two. So I'm not understanding the lands to be conveyed. There still seems to be, is that an access road between the two parcels that they will own, or is that still a piece of municipal property?
I think that's just what will be proposed in the application, Linda. If I'm correct, that will be a joint lane for all 3 lots.
That is correct. That lane is extended and it will be part of parcel number 1.
Thank you. And the second thing is, just as a point of clarification, as you know, the Waterfront Committee has been involved in researching all of the municipal lanes that access the waterfront. There's a master plan being construed over time that speaks to the lanes. This one never surfaced as far as my recollection goes. How many more are there like this? And why is this not referred to the waterfront master plan for review? It did in the binder of the lanes that I was provided with. I don't remember seeing this one, and we certainly didn't walk it while we were on the committee.
I would hazard a guess there's going to be at least a handful of lanes that probably aren't on the inventory, and they just kind of arise as we look at the neighborhood, and typically it's the adjacent landowner that bring it to our attention. And if you want the Waterfront Committee to have a look at this, you can, Committee of Whole can put that as part of their direction, that it be referred to the Waterfront Committee if you so wish.
I think the other option would be there will be a planning advisory, there will be a planning meeting on this, and the Waterfront Committee, could make comment to that planning issue when it arises then. Another suggestion, I think it's before us tonight, and I think it's a reasonable solution. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. I'm just curious, and it would come up when it would get to planning, but it would appear as though the creation of 3 lots would basically create a lot that would be connected to Saugeen Beach Road via a private lane, and we don't allow the creation of lots on private lanes anymore. So the wording suggests that each of the lots would have approximately a 12-foot frontage onto Saugeen Beach Road. Is that enough of a encouragement to some? Because we do have it stipulated that we do not create lots on private lanes.
So the lot would not be created on a private lane. Like Parcel 1 would actually have a very long lane that would front onto Saugeen Beach Road. So they would have frontage, each lot would have frontage onto the Class 1 road. Then with respect to whether it's good planning, that would be up to the planning department, and they've certainly had a look at it. They haven't put any red flags up that they, Bruce County Planning Department won't be recommending this. They're certainly encouraging us to proceed with it, and certainly the lesser lot frontage would be addressed in a zoning amending bylaw.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be real clear about that, though, just to draw the line really clearly, we're not dealing with any of that at this time. What we're discussing here is whether or not, it's a very simple discussion, whether or not we want to swap one piece of property for another, whether that's in the interest of the owners of the land, the taxpayer, and I think council is well suited to make that decision. And my only question is, in our experience, as much as we've looked at this property, does the land being conveyed to us in the proposal, does it remain consistently above the water line, or does it tend to end up underwater at any point? Has it ended up underwater at any point, or for an extended period at any point over the last 20 or 30 years? I don't know if that's something that can be answered or not. Do we have any knowledge of that? Does it stay pretty high and dry? I know that, and the reason I raise it is a lot of pieces of property that we own for public access up against the water are now at this moment frankly closed off for public access in that part of the community because the water has come up, and that is something that repeats itself sort of cyclically once every 20 years or so. Do you have any knowledge of that, Linda, or any comments?
We did meet with the surveyor on site, and he did show us where the high water marks are and what to look for in that, and it did seem to be quite a distance back. They have marked on the 2014 high water mark, and just verbally, on the drawing it shows 20 meter setback from kind of the high water mark currently in 2014. And the surveyors did give us some comfort in knowing that the water hadn't been to that level in a number of years.
Excellent. Yeah, so if I may, Mr. Mayor, if that's the case, it will provide, I see the property as being able to provide a very reliable means of conveyance for the public between those two pieces of beach, and so I see no downside in the transfer. The access remains, and in fact is already there and can be now ratified and guaranteed for the future. So I certainly support the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's one key line in the recommendation that council agrees in principle requiring the lands in which the existing trail is located. And I've spoke to the Harbys, it was some time ago, about this very use, and I just wanted to commend the staff for this. Has been in the works for several years now. For working through this negotiation, and a regular user of that trail. I think it's a conflict because I've not raising any money on this. But I am a regular user of that trail, and I can say it is a well-used path. And so I'm pleased to see in the recommendation that we will be maintaining that existing trail where it's located, because it is a very important trail for the community. So good work to staff.
Thank you. Councillor Minaj, one more time.
Just for clarification then, you need me to put some sort of amending motion together to have this directed to the Waterfront Committee for review?
I'll take it verbally.
Okay. As a matter of principle, because the Waterfront Committee exists, I would like to ask that the Waterfront Committee be given a chance to review and comment. Thank you.
That really basically is a motion to refer then. Okay, a seconder for that. Seconded by John. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? That fails. Okay, back to the main motion. All in favor of the main motion? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is a staff report for the Emma Street sidewalk options, and this is an option that was raised by. Go ahead, and our Director of Public Works, Lynn Perdue, will present.
Back at the April 11th council meeting, staff was directed to review other options and report back to council with further options for consideration. Project 1 is to construct a new 1.5 meter sidewalk on Emma Street between Bricker and Hilker. If approved, the contractor would construct a new 1.5 meter sidewalk between Bricker Street and Hilker Street. The new 1.5 meter sidewalk would be constructed on the north side of the street. All disturbed areas would be reinstated with sod, and the driveways would be reinstated to their previous conditions and materials. The changes would be implemented in construction with the upcoming sanitary sewer project. The sidewalk would connect Bricker to Hilker and further the town's active transportation objectives. This section of sidewalk was originally proposed for inclusion in the project, but was removed when the scope and funding source for the project was amended as part of the review of the 2016 capital program. Project number 2 is the upgrading of the existing 1.2 meter sidewalk to 1.5 meters on Emma Street between Goderich and Hilker. The contractor would remove the existing 1.2 meter sidewalk between Goderich Street and Bricker and construct a new 1.5 meter sidewalk to town standards. Staff proposed that the original sidewalk would remain as currently installed and had included removal and replacement of deficient sections and the inclusion of 45 new meters where there currently isn't sidewalk. The existing sidewalk is currently in adequate condition with a rating of 5, and although it doesn't meet the current standard for width, was thought to be in acceptable condition. If council approves the change in scope, the changes will be implemented in connection with the upcoming sanitary sewer project. And project number 3 is a replacement of the concrete pad at the Port Elgin Fire Hall. The contractor will be removing a portion of this concrete apron in front of the fire hall in order to replace the sanitary service into the building. At this point, it would be cost effective to replace the entire apron. With the existing condition of the concrete, this work would need to be included in the next couple of years and is recommended by the fire chief and the acting director of public works to be undertaken as part of the work on Emma Street. The financial impact, project 1. To complete this project, $22,000 is required and will be funded from the existing capital sidewalk line item in the 2016 budget. The approved budget includes funds in the amount of $25,000. If this work is approved, some of the planned work would be deferred and postponed into 2017 as the sidewalk inspections are underway but not complete at this point. Project number 2, the upgrading of the existing 1.2 meter sidewalk. To complete this project is $33,000 is required to be transferred from the roads reserve. a capital budget amendment would be required. The fund balance is projected to be $316,796,000 at year end. Project number 3 is the replacement of the concrete pad at the fire hall. To complete this project, $12,000 is required to be transferred from the road reserves.
Thank you, Len. So there's some options there. There's three projects and 3 recommendations, and I think we'll probably try and deal with them one at a time. But there's an option do or do not approve. So the first one is a council. I need a mover. Would someone move or not move a motion to deal with the first recommendation, I guess, on Emma Street? You'll move, okay. And you'll second, okay. Some discussion on it. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. Len, can you just, I'll lump them all together. It's $67,000 for all 3 of them, but can you just remind us of what would have been in the original contract that has already been awarded? What level of sidewalk service were we getting in the original contract?
In the original contract, we were replacing broken panels in the block between Goderich and Hilker, and there's also a area of the parking lot by the professional building there where there's no present sidewalk, so we would be installing it at that location.
So it was extremely limited. The amount of new construction was a lot of rehabilitation. Is that fair?
Correct, as part of the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the town's active transportation objectives, Bricker to Hilker, then the town's downtown beautification and pedestrian traffic improvements are things that are concerning me for the need for this expansion to the 1.5 meters. We had the same road work show up on Elgin Street last year, right between Goderich and Bricker Street. And we did the cut a section out, remove and replace a section of the what's 4 feet then? 1.2 meters. Whatever the other meters is, I got to get that one in my head. However, on Market Street, there were a number of construction events that took place where cottages were being redesigned and concrete driveways were being replaced. And the concrete trucks literally destroyed the sidewalk, and it was replaced at the 1.5 meters. When I asked the then director, his comment to me was, we should be replacing at the new 1.5 meter standard wherever and whenever we can. And I get it, that it's budget related. So then the problem, the continuing problem is that the snowplow operator, the sidewalk snowplow operator, now operates a machine that is a 1.5 meter blade or snow blowing capability. And if you've walked around town, you can see that it's not working well. There are 6-inch to 1 foot gouges on either 6-inch on both sides. Now I don't know what that is in meters. I apologize. Something around 12, 15 centimeters, I guess. So there's issues with the fact that we are now unable to look after the sidewalks properly with the equipment that we have. My opinion is we should be trying to do the 1.5 meters wherever and whenever possible. And if there's a funding issue, then it needs to come back to the asset management plan that says that the standard should be at the 1.5 meters, and we wouldn't be having this discussion anymore. So I'd like to end that there with the last comment that says, however, in this case, we are talking about the active transportation objectives. So if the sidewalk is a connection, then it's connecting the main street all the way through up towards the high school. So I would like to think, and I will support, and I will put paper together if you need me, to get the 1.5 meters on this particular section. Thank you.
Further comments on this one? On this particular one? Well, my comment will be, and I don't disagree with a lot of your arguments, Neil. First of all, probably the vast majority of our sidewalks are not the new standard yet. The vast majority of them. So it's not. This is not an unusual. This is not an unusual situation, and I do have some difficulty when we're adding projects to the capital budget. We spent all that time going through that capital budget, directing staff to come up with it, and we started adding projects on it through the year. So there's all kinds of them that we could continue to do this. I think you set a capital budget, unless there's very unusual circumstances, you should be sticking to it. And I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if anybody else is confused, but I am. The two projects, 1 and project 2, I understand project 3 with the concrete pad. The first two, are they not overlapping?
We're just dealing with the one right now. But
one says Goderich to Hilker, and one is Bricker to Hilker. For the sidewalk upgrade.
Sorry, typo. Goderich to Bricker.
Goderich to Bricker, and then Bricker to Hilker. Okay. Because I'm looking at the map and I'm thinking, we're not going to put sidewalks on both sides of the road, but there's yeah. So there are two separate sections. Okay, I'm clear now.
Any further questions? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for Project 2, Len, I also have a question about this. Is this our current plan is to remove and replace deficient sections, or we haven't done that yet? That's the current plan, is that right?
The contract that's out there is the locations where we replace the sanitary services.
Right.
We will replace those couple panels.
Okay, and what would be the difference in cost between upgrading totally to the 1.5 and just doing the replacement of those sections?
That's project number 2.
Yeah.
That's $33,000. Yep.
The motion or the recommendation for number 1 is, and I guess you moved it in the affirmative, that we do approve the installation of the sidewalk for a cost of $22,000. I'll read the whole thing. That council approve the installation of a new sidewalk on Emma Street between Bricker and Hilker with the required funds in the amount of $22,000 to be funded from the 2016 capital budget. So I'm a little confused with that, Len, because if this was not included in the capital budget, how are we going to find the $22,000?
There's $22,000 in
for other projects.
For capital sidewalk.
Okay, so what we're doing then is we won't be doing some other projects.
Correct.
Okay, that's clarifying. Okay, Councillor Minaj.
The clarification we need, though, Mr. Mayor, when you read that recommendation number 1, is that it's got Goderich, Bricker and Goderich on Emma Street for $22,000. Is that not correct?
Reads, it says new sidewalk on Emma Street between Bricker and Hilker. It's recommendation 1 that we're dealing with.
Recommendation 1 is correct. It is Bricker to Hilker. It's the new sidewalk.
So we'll go with you then, Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
So basically it's one block, right?
Correct.
So what's give me the math. What is it like per meter for a sidewalk? What's the number we kind of use for that to build a new sidewalk?
Well, there's more than just building the sidewalk. There's a restoration on either side and the restoration of all the driveways, and there's some asphalt approaches. So it's hard to delineate a linear meter price for sidewalk.
Okay, what would be the price then, through you, Mr. Mayor, for 1 meter of sidewalk rehab? What's the number we sort of banter about for that? 4,000, 5,000?
I suspect your answer will be the same because it'll vary wherever you are. Because if you've got to, as Len said, if you've got to repair
Well,
interlocking brick side driveway, then it's going to be a certain price. If it's just a straight, say, okay, then perhaps one straight meter of without anything else. I mean,
A lineal meter of sidewalk, approximately $100, but that's dependent on what material is on either side. Like Mayor Mike said, if it's an interlocking pavement driveway, if it's a concrete driveway, if it's asphalt, or if it's just some sod on each side.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just so I can be real clear here, then, recommendation 1 extends the existing service. We have no sidewalk service in that location now. We're extending the service and funding that from the capital budget by removing projects we budgeted for 3 months ago and replacing them with this. And then item 2 enhances or improves the existing service we already provide. It completely replaces, makes it our 1.5 meters and
let's
extends it.
keep to number 2 when we get there.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I apologize for doing that. I just wanted to really put that in context clearly that this is what we're dealing with here is an extension of service and a replacement of projects that we discussed and budgeted for in the 2016 budget. So I just wanted to be clear about that. I'm feeling like I can't support doing that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Len, do you have any idea of which projects then we'd have to alter to accommodate this?
I can't answer that one at this point because the sidewalk inspections are not complete yet for 2016.
Councillor Minaj, one more time.
Okay, well, I haven't spoken to this. I spoke to 2 inadvertently. Number 1, though, Emma Street between Bricker and Helker, that's one more block, and we've dead-ended the sidewalk. If you're going to keep going with that sidewalk, if you're going to do that at all, you would want to go all the way to Wellington Street. So I'm personally not in favor right now of making that effort to go one more block and not go the extra 2 blocks to Wellington Street. I'll speak to 2 again maybe when I get a chance. Thank you.
So, okay. So then let's deal with recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 1, and I think, does everybody understand what we're voting on? Do you want me to read the recommendation? Everybody understands then? Yeses and noes? All in favor of recommendation number 1? Opposed? That's defeated then. So, number 2 then is that, okay, well, I'm going to ask for somebody to move. Should always probably be moved in the affirmative. So, okay, and seconded by John Rich, that council does approve the removal of the existing sidewalk and the installation of a new sidewalk on Emma Street between Goderich Street and Bricker Street, and approves the capital budget amendment necessary in the amount of $33,000 in order to fund the additional work from the road reserve. We'll start with comments. Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I think this has a lot of merit in that and it's for the reason that Councillor Minaj raised, that it takes and enhances the piece of sidewalk that we already have. It brings it up to the standard. We're already doing the work in the location. It makes eminent sense to do that work now while we have all those people on the ground and take that service that we're already providing and bring it up to a modern standard. And I think that's going to be a good investment down the road, and this is the right time to make that investment. So I certainly made the motion, and I will support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mike Myatt. Well, my comments are the same as the other one. This is another, again, where we're adding to the capital budget, and I don't see a compelling reason. We're going to tear up a perfectly good sidewalk to add 1 foot on the side of it. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Go ahead, Councillor Minaj.
You raised 2 points. So one point is that we've already seen some road work in the community that's come in under budget. So I get that we're adding to the budget, but we've already seen some substantial decreases to the budget. So there's plenty of trade-off there. And the second thing is the concept behind this current block is that we're currently only going to cut across people's driveways. Where we cut across the driveway, we're going to replace the previous 4-foot wide standard, 1.2 meter standard, and we're going to leave the rest untouched. So that's not quite the same as what you said, where we're going to dig up a positively good sidewalk and replace it at 1.5 meters. So the idea here is that once we've cut through it, we're going to have it the same as it was on Elgin Street. So I too support it. Thank you.
We're going to be tearing up some perfectly good 4-foot sidewalk.
Yes.
Fine. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Through you to Len. Len, if we don't agree to project number 2, excuse me, there will be some sidewalk rehab and a little bit of new construction. It's already in the contract, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Further comments? Then all in favor of the recommendation? All opposed? That carries. So the next item then. This is replacement of the concrete pad on Port Elgin Fire Hall. So I need a recommendation, or I'll get a mover for it, and again in the affirmative. So moved by Cheryl, seconded by Dave. Any discussion on this? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we used to have a big issue behind the fire hall with water and whatever. Have we dealt with that ahead of this? Do you know, Len?
We've done no work behind. You mean south of the fire hall?
This was a couple years ago. Yeah, the laneway was really bad.
We've done no work south of the fire hall that I can recall.
Is the condition of the existing concrete there on whatever scale you do to evaluate that kind of stuff? Because you said the sidewalk was at a 5. What would you put the existing pad as being at? Did you do that?
Correct answer to that one is no, I haven't looked at it recently.
Oh, I guess I should have read this recommendation. I don't think I did I? I didn't know. The third recommendation is that Council approves a capital budget amendment to expand the scope of the Emma Street sewer project in order to complete the removal and the replacement of the existing concrete pad in front of the fire hall in the amount of $12,000 to be funded from the road reserve. Other comments? Councillor Dave Mayatt.
Yeah, just for complete clarification, if we vote no on this, then they're just going to replace the portion that they cut up. And so you have a patchwork concrete pad. If we vote yes, you're going to put a whole new pad.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support this again. I've supported all three, and I do support staff good work on this. I do agree with you, though, Mr. Mayor. I think that, budget discussions really do need to take place back in November, December, January, and not continuously. I say continuously. I've seen several come back where we're asking for budget amendments, in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and I just think we need to pay attention to that, and that we need to have those discussions around the budget discussion table. So, I support the three. I think Len's thought these out well, and they're good projects. But I also wanted to make that comment that we need to have those discussions in December, January.
Further comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So, there is 4 or 5 items there for your information and for the public. Everyone there is the class environmental assessment for the master plan for the County Road 25 will be May the 18th in the Rotary Hall. So anyone interested in the CAW road should attend, and your comments would be welcomed by the engineer that's doing that. Councillor Minaj.
So it's, just to be clear, we can, when I go and make comment, I'm making comment as citizen Minaj, not as a member of this council. So my question to you would be, can we have a discussion about what we think we should support as a municipality for that area of, and have it recorded and attached so that when that presentation is made, the public knows how we feel about it?
I think you're better to do that yourself. I know the staff will have any input that they have with regard to their particular department. But this is really an information gathering process where you collect all of that information. You do not prejudge this and say where it should go now, because always the option, there's a range of options, and one of them is do nothing. So to say where we want it to end up now is really prejudicing the whole class environmental assessment process. You need to go through that and get all of the input about, if you have got a particular concern about drainage or design or something, by all means, I think, but you'll find that those things are generally addressed by staff. But the class environmental assessment process is meant to unfold in a way that always and almost always does come up with the best solution. Okay? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't want to speak to the first one, but 2 and 3. The second is a very interesting piece of information that Councillor Mayette and I and Jeff Carver, the chair of the Economic Development Committee, a couple of weekends ago went to Michigan, to the western shore of Michigan, to just get some ideas for economic development, and it was a very rewarding trip. We were able to meet with Tim Irwin, who's the chair of the Alliance for Economic Success, which is a regional economic development committee. And one of the things that he told us about was this program called Explore the Shores, which is included in your agenda, which is really exciting because the county of Manistee has been the recipient of a large grant from the Easter Seals Foundation, as well as a number of other grants. And the goal is to make their shoreline and their rivers and water, access to water, basically accessible to all kinds, people with accessibility challenges of all kinds. And this started in 2008, and now it's really become a premier destination for tourism of that sort. And so we were able to actually see some of the constructions that people can actually go right down in their wheelchairs and fish and walk in the sand and all kinds of things. It's really a terrific program. So that's just one thing that we brought back, and Councillor Mayette and I will be making a larger report to the Economic Development Committee that you'll see later.
Thank you.
If I could just add to that, this program was amazing. We talk about accessibility here a lot. We have an accessibility committee whose primary mandate is to meet the legislation. But this program they have takes it to a whole new level. This is to provide accessibility to areas that people who are challenged would not normally have. They have docks, they have ramps right to the water's edge on the beach. And we've started a bit with our accessibility playground, which we know has become a bit of a tourist destination for people in the area. But this fellow Tim, he said he couldn't have believed the amount of tourism that, like, their Manistee County is on the map for all of the upper eastern part of the United States for people with disabilities. So they know they can come there and they can get right up to the water's edge. They have special big tired wheelchairs for them, and they have these ramps that go right to deep water. People can fish. It was really amazing, and we were taken aback by that and a lot of other things that we saw over there.
Thank you. Councillor Grace.
I had also a question actually for John, Councillor Rich, about the Basra minutes, because it was interesting to me to read about the concern about the new recycling bill, which may take 5 years to complete, but I know that there was concern expressed in the meeting about that. So I just wondered if if there's no information now, but just if you could keep us posted on what we might be doing to prepare for, the bill was suggesting that I think that municipalities will be required to accept all kinds of things that we're not equipped to accept now in recycling, and what kinds of things we need to be doing to prepare for that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So as I think maybe we all know that everything that we take through the recycling system in Saugeen Shores is recycled. There's like a very small percentage that actually goes to landfill. So the new legislation that could possibly go through and affect us would put us in a very bad spot, because we'd have to take a lot of things that we are not in a position to be able to recycle first and foremost, and unfortunately a lot of it would end up going to landfill. Things like Tetra Paks as a prime example. But one of the things that Bazar's doing is they're bringing in a couple of trucks that we're going to purchase, trailers I mean, and then they're going to hire a full-time driver that's going to be able to take loads down to possibly locations that and pick up, say something like Tetra Paks as an example, be able to hit different stops along the way and be able to go to a recycling facility down in the city. But I think that the key point to remember is that a lot of the large urban centers take a lot of the recycling that they get straight to landfill. So when you get the municipalities that have a big container and you throw everything in and then it's sorted, a very vast majority of that goes to landfill. And I think that's the message that we should be taking back to anyone that's trying to impose legislations on smaller communities like ourselves.
Councillor Dave Mayotte.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have a question that, having perused the minutes a little bit, under item 4, other business, says that reported a serious accident took place in one of our garbage trucks. The employee was not seriously injured, but due to the seriousness of the accident, employment was terminated. Please tell me we haven't got to the state where when people are injured on the job, we terminate them?
I think that
I think you need to be pretty careful here.
Yeah.
I think you need to be very, very careful here. This could be. I would.
That he was not terminated because of the accident.
I think you need to be very careful when you're talking about personnel here in open session. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. I'll take advantage of a Basra moment here to, and the fact that the Acting Director of Public Works is here as well. We've had now about 6 months with our contract, and there's been a couple of questions in particular about commercial pickup in Southampton. I'm just curious, has there been any kind of review of the service at the 6-month mark, or is that a possibility? And again, it's specifically related to commercial pickup in Southampton. There's a concern. It used to be on Monday. Actually, they used to get 2 days a week, but one of them used to be Monday. The change means now it's on Wednesday for the downtown core, and there's a concern over the summer that maybe Monday makes better sense, given the potential volume of garbage after the weekend, that they would like to have at least the chance to comment. I don't know if that's happened yet or if it will happen, but 6 months in, it'd be nice to kind of get an update on how it's going. Maybe that's a Len question. Through you, Mr.
I hadn't got as far as reviewing that it's been 6 months, but I can definitely add that to my list of things to do.
Thanks, Len. So there's 2 information items there for you, and if there's any questions on those, Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
I think it's worth noting, Mr. Mayor, on item number 1, on the report from the Director of Finance, that the town of Saugeen Shores has the second lowest tax rates in the county of Bruce, and that on a home assessed at $282,000, you're a taxpayer with a property at that value pays fully $800 less a year in property tax than the highest municipality in the county of Bruce, which I won't name out loud, but I think certainly worth noting that publicly, I think, and that the public be aware that Saugeen Shores tax rates are second only to the municipality of North Bruce Peninsula in the county. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If there's nothing else, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Madison, Councillor Wyatt, all in favor? Or adjourn?